I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
Welcome to the Living Hope Agency Call. I couldn't be more excited for our special guest, Mr. Wiley Hawkins, 22 years old, knocking on the door, a board member, Hall of Fame producer, somebody that we've had only a couple of, intimate conversations together, but somebody that I'm excited for you guys to be able to learn from. So Wiley, how we doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing amazing. How are you, Jamie?
I'm good, man. I'm good, guys. Wiley, he was moving today and he stopped his busy day to be able to be on this call. So I just appreciate you so much for spending some time with us, man. But tell us your story, your background, how you heard about Family First Life. I mean, 22, that's very young to have the level of success that you've been able to find. And I'm sure that you made a bunch of mistakes when you first got started, and we're excited to hear all about it, man.
Yeah, no, I'll just pour in. So, I started when I was 20 years old, and I was in a position where the COVID pandemic really just, hit everyone's door and affected all of us. And I was going to school at the time, and I was working as a valet at this little hotel here in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm paying $26,000 a year to go to school. I had to pay it all back. I didn't have any I didn't have any help from my parents or anything like that. And I was like, okay, maybe let me take a look at something else. So I was like, I'm just going to take a break from school. So I decided to drop out, just take a couple semesters off. And I really didn't know where my life was going. And I lived with 4 buddies at the time. And one of my buddies comes home. He starts this new job. He doesn't tell us much about it. He comes in and he's like smiling from ear to ear and he's super excited. And I was like, hey, man, what's going on? Did you just come back from a really good date? Did she say yes? I was like, why are you so happy? And he's like, no, man, I just made $2,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do you do? Was that just today? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I sell life insurance. And I was like, okay, sweet. Can I get a job? And this was with the practice company. So I go in, I started working with the practice company and we had no leads. And so I worked for them for about a month, but what they would do, so I would have to drive 3 hours it was about 4 hours away 3 to 4 hours away from where I was from. And they would drop me off and just have me go knock on doors and just ask people if they want policies like cancer insurance, stuff like that. And then I was the top producer for a rookie there, but I had absolutely no money in my bank account. So I'm like, this is not a good position because if I'm at the top right now, I can't imagine what the other people are looking at in their bank accounts. So then I stepped away and I hated the life insurance industry, truth be told. And then I just took a break for about 2 months and was just really trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was so lost, Jamie. I was just what should I do, man? And so I just prayed really quick. And I was like, look, God, just give me a billboard sign on what I need to do with my life. And next thing you know, dude, I got a call, just a random cold call. And it was Zach Twardowski's admin. And she was like, hey, we found your resume. You look like you'd be a good fit. Do you have 5 minutes to talk? And then when she broke down FFL, to be quite honest, I didn't pay too much attention. I just needed a job at that point. So I'm like, yep, I know how to sell life insurance. Let's give this a go. And then I got started and just kind of go through it pretty quickly. My first month, I didn't make a single sale for 2 weeks. And then my third week in, it just kind of clicked and I helped 9 families. And then so my first month in, I helped a total of 18 families. And then second month, it was 47 families. And then after that, it was just 40 families a month from there.
That's incredible, man. What would you say was the big, the turning point for you? Because you obviously had sold some policies at the practice company, came over here, you had 2 weeks that was pretty rough. Was that 2 weeks just attributed to the fact that you were having to unlearn all the bad habits from the practice company and learn everything over here? And then how did you go from 18 families, which for some people they're striving to get to 18 families, and then you turned it up and went to 40 plus families pretty much ever since? What were those couple key moments that took you from getting your butt kicked to 9 families to 18 families to 47 and consistently 40?
Yeah, like you just said, I had to learn a lot of, bad habits from my old company, and I didn't understand the structure of lead flow. So I had sat down with Zach and I was like, dude, I have to make this work. Like, what are the 3 things that I need to focus on? And he's like, the first thing is you have to become a master at buying leads. And so we'll go into that. And then the second thing is like, you have to become a master on the phones, because 80% of your success is determined by the phones. And then he's like, once you do that and you start booking 30 appointments a week, then we'll slowly tweak your in-home. He's like, but just focus on those 2 things for me. And then call me after every single appointment that you missed, don't sale, or just felt like you could have done better on, so I can tweak you when you're in the field. And so that's what I did, Jamie. I just started, looking at my lead flow, what type of leads that I liked. And I was mainly looking at final expense leads. So anytime I would make a sale, let's say I made, $1,200, I would take 800 of that and I'd pour it right back into leads. So I had enough at bats just to give me the reps that I needed on the phone. And then slowly and surely that momentum just carried over for me getting enough appointments. And then, yeah.
I love it. So just to kind of pause you right there before you kind of dig into each of the 3 things here. When it comes to leads, so, new agents obviously have a different layout than what we maybe had, 2 years ago getting started in this business. I got started on pretty much all Facebook final expense leads. Internet leads didn't exist. Now we have this plethora of 1 and 3 month internet leads, instance, new internet life leads, YouTube leads, Facebook leads. There's so many different directions you can go. I think the number one thing that I get from new agents, because they have not yet mastered lead buying and they have not yet mastered the phones, is they talk about how, well, I'm just sitting with people who, are on Direct Express MasterCards. They're super unhealthy and they kind of get a little bit discouraged, going into some of those homes. But, at least for me, I found that when I became, a master of lead buying, having enough leads, and then a master of the phones, which I don't think I'm a master by any means, but, just using your words here,
Right.
Then I started finding people inside of those leads that had better income, but they weren't necessarily the ones that were the easiest to book. So I guess what are your, thoughts for a new agent that maybe, comes in, they're working, final expense, internet leads, I guess what would your advice be to get someone started, lead flow? I just get started today. You just hired me, what's that lead flow look like? And kind of how do you prep me for going from, meeting with the people who, are going to have, Easter basket full of medications, all the way to finding the people where the big premium is?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So a question for you real quick. Did you ever play basketball or any type of sports?
Played all kinds of sports. Basketball was the one. I still shoot with 2 hands, so it's a
Do
bad
you?
example, but I do.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Chris,
But
that's awesome.
baseball, football, wrestling, so I'm sure you can pull something from one of those.
Sweet. Well, I think one of the most important things, and I think a lot of people aren't comfortable just coming into the business and investing in themselves. So I always like to say this. Let's say, Jamie, me and you were going to go have a little basketball competition. I was like, look, if you win this competition, you're going to make $3,000. Option A is you have to hit 15 3-pointers and you only have 50 shots. That's option A. Option B is you have to hit 15 3-pointers, the exact same thing, but you have 150 shots. Which option are you going to take? They're going to go 150 shots. Like, okay, out of 150 shots, do you think you can hit 15? They're going to go, absolutely. I'm like, okay, perfect. It's the exact same thing with leads. You need 150 leads to hit that 15 shots. Now, the leads that I would be looking at is the final expense 1 to 3 months and the final expense 1 to 3 month mortgage and FEX. Because it's like, anyone on this call, when's the last time any of us has actually gotten something in the mail, filled it out, and sent it back? Probably never. Or a better question is, when's the last time you actually mailed anything? Because the last time I mailed something was for my mother's birthday, and that's probably the only time I'll ever mail anything is for my mom. But when these people mail something back, there's such a high intent to buy, and they remember obviously putting their pen to ink, right, and sending it in. So I would start with that. I would grab as many as you can. And let's say there's only 20. Then from there, what I would start looking at is the CRM internet leads. So I would grab probably 50 of those, 1 month or instance. Those are my favorites, 1 month or instance. And then I would look at the YouTube final expense. I'm a big fan of those. So I would grab 50 internets, as many YouTube as you can, 10. And then what I would actually do, me and my group, we've been using a company called Smart Financial, and I'm kind of going to plug them, but I'm in love with them right now. And I think everybody should hear about them. So they're an internet lead. It's $5 a pop, and they're just directly to you. So you don't have any other agents calling them. They're very, very, very exclusive. So that's Smart Financial. And then I would fulfill the rest of my order with Smart. But the whole goal, it doesn't really matter what type of lead you buy. You just want to get to 150. But if I was going to craft someone's lead flow, I would kind of hit those pockets.
I love that, man. So for you, obviously, you have your preference of what leads that you like to work. But at the end of the day, really the goal is just, can you get in front of somebody? That's really all that matters. And obviously a 3-month-old lead, maybe it's a little bit harder to get a hold of, but once you get a hold of them, once you set the appointment, there's really no difference in the intent of the lead if they agreed to let you have an appointment, you know?
Yeah.
So we talk about a lead as a lead as a lead. That's absolutely true. It just comes down to how hard do you maybe have to work that stack of leads. And, you know, Grady always talked about something called the time money pendulum. In the beginning, you have a lot of time and not a lot of money. So you got to dial some older leads when it comes to the beginning, because you're working on ROI, you're working on getting your reps in. And then over time, you start to build up a little bit of cash, and you can say, you know what, I can spend less time dialing because number one, I deserve it because I'm better on the phones because I put in the reps. And number two, because I can afford to buy a lead that's not necessarily higher intent, but a lead that filled it out more recently. So, you know, if you ever have somebody who is having a really hard dial day, you know, I guess, what does that conversation look like? Mindset around the phones. You know, people are saying they didn't fill it out. People are saying, you know, I already got it taken care of. Those, all the smoke screen objections that people come up with on the phone that are all untrue. You know, what does your coaching conversation look like for somebody who maybe had a really hard dial day, or how do you pre-coach somebody going into their first dial day so they can kind of have the best success knowing those are the odds they're up against?
Yeah. So I think it's really important, just your perspective on life. So if it was your first dial day, Jamie, I would just ask you, let's say, what was, you know, the hardest job you've ever had in your life before this? And this is a genuine question to you.
Yeah. Working at Taco Bell, cleaning the toilets and doing the deep fryer and the dishwasher.
That sounds miserable. I can't imagine you never want to go back there, right?
Never.
Okay. So this is still going to be very, very hard, but it's not physically going to be hard. It's all just going to be a mental battle with yourself. The expectation here is you'll have 150 leads. Out of that many leads, let's just say a worst case scenario, 50 of them have bad numbers. The next 160 of them say no to you. Just they're like, no, I'm not interested. Now you have 40 people left. Out of those 40, let's say you do your phone script perfect, but then you get a couple objections. So 15 people give you objections you can't handle. And then that remaining 15, you book them, right? So that's what it's going to look like. You're going to go through over 100 no's. Are you going to be able to handle that to get the 15 appointments? And they'll say yes. And then, so I think when they come back to me and they say, Wiley, I'm honestly getting my butt kicked today. I'm like, dude, I know like you're going through it, but think about what life looked like when it was at Taco Bell. Is it as bad as that? They're like, no. Okay. All I need you to do, man, is smile, keep your chin up, just speak with your chest. Like, let's hop on Zoom. Cause I think it's really important to get around people that they have fire. They have that passion. They have that energy, because the analogy is like, let's say we are out camping and we're all around a campfire. Like, you have to stay warm. You know, you don't, the further away you are from the fire, the colder, the worse it's going to be. So you want to stay warm. You want to stay close to the guys that are passionate about the business and that are fired up. So I think that's really important. And then just having perspective on your life.
That's good, man. That's very good. This business is obviously a roller coaster, because you get really, really good at this business, and you can have some of the best weeks financially of your life, but then this is also commission-based sales, and it's an ebb and a flow. It's a, you know, a mountain and a valley. And there's, you know, Andrew says, you know, everybody typically has one really good week, 2 average weeks, and 1 really bad week if they're consistent. And then obviously the longer you do this, the more consistent you become. You start having less. I haven't had a bad week in a very long time, unless it was 100% I did not do enough activity. But I haven't had a week where I know I put up the numbers, I had my 30 appointments, and the week was bad in a long time, just because I've sat on 2,000 appointments now, and it's ingrained to go into it with a positive attitude, regardless of the results. And you do it long enough, you're going to start having great weeks and good weeks only. And then at a certain point, the bad weeks only come from when you know you didn't do enough activity. So if I look back and I'm honest with myself, it's usually activity focused. But then there's other times where I have people who will say, Jamie, I had the best dial day that I've ever had. I booked 18 appointments and I had the worst 2 run days of my entire career and got my butt kicked. I got completely smoked. But last week, I sat with 10 and I closed 9. What do you think the difference is between somebody who that one week they go 9 for 10 and the next week they go 0 for 18? What happened there?
I personally think, one, it could be, all right, how well are you tying people down? Like, are you actually setting real appointments? I think that's a good question. The other thing is, so I went through a rut like about a year ago, and every time that I went into a house, I was only thinking about what they were thinking of me. Were they going to like me? Was I going to come off nice? Was I saying the right things? And I was so in my head that I wasn't ever focused on what they were saying. I was more focused on what I was saying and cared more about how I was being perceived by the client instead of just caring more about them and their situation. So I think that's really the case, is when you start to, miss appointments that you could have helped. It's like, okay, was I actually there where I put my heart on my sleeve and I was focused on their problems, not mine? Because I think it's really important to leave all your problems in your car, even if you're going through, just a life situation. Like, life is just, tough in general. So I think, people, when they have bad weeks, it's like, okay, let's look at your mindset. And something that I do want to touch on to go back to. So Zach Twardowski told me something when I was dialing and I was going through a really bad day. He's like, instead of focusing on your 15 appointments, he's like, focus on getting 50 no's. He's like, because when you get a no, it's a good thing. And so you get excited for the bad. And when you get excited for the bad, you're like, okay, you had 4 no's in a row. It's like, yes, now I'm 46 no's away from being done with the day. Because once you get 50 no's, Zach was like, you're good, you're done. But after, you probably will never get 50 no's in one day. And then you'll look down at your schedule and be like, wow, I have 17 appointments and I have 41 no's. Like, that was great. So I think that's important. But no, to answer your question, I think it's just your mindset going into the house is really why you're off.
That makes sense, man. So are you somebody who strictly in home? Are you doing any telesales? What about your team?
So most of us are still in the field. I split it down the middle every week. So I do Monday through Wednesday telesales, and then on the weekend I run in the field.
So why do you do it that way, where you go in the field on the weekend and you do your telesales in the beginning of the week?
Yeah. So obviously on the weekend, most people don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. So that's when you can sit down with both husband and wife. And then you're able to obviously sit with more people on those days. And then just personally for me, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, that's just a day for me to recruit, get office work done. And then at night I'll run telesales. So it's just more efficient for me. But yeah, if you guys are not working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I do take off. But Friday and Saturday, especially, I think you're losing out on 6 figures of income.
I couldn't agree more, man. I look back at the last 2 years and I did the calculations. I checked some of the dates in my book, and probably 70% of my premium was submitted on Friday and Saturday, which is crazy to look, so, one thing I also noticed, because obviously, in FFL, we're all kind of each other's biggest fans. We watch each other's stories. You see what people are doing, dude. You travel all over the place, and you don't just go alone. You bring people with you, and I think that's a cool thing. It's something that we don't do enough of. It's something that I'm excited to do more of in the future. But talk to me about your experience doing some ride-alongs with new agents. And then also, we'll dig into the next thing I have after that. But talk about ride-alongs, kind of how powerful that's been for you guys.
Yeah, so I was trained personally in the life insurance industry with my other company by doing ride-alongs. But here's my take on it. And for anybody that's looking to grow a team, this is how I've been approaching it lately. So what I'll do is, obviously, I one-on-one coach most of my agents on the phone, sit on Zoom with them, make sure they get a solid amount of appointments for their next run day. I'll allow them to go in the field for their first 2 to 3 days all by themselves, because I want them to go get their face kicked in. I want them to figure it out. I want them just to get creative when they're in the house. And after that, what we'll do is we'll dial together for, let's say, that weekend, and then I'll take them out with me. And then what we'll do is I'll have them run like the first part of the appointment, just finding the why. And then I'll do the financial inventory. And then each appointment we flip flop. So I can see how do they find the why. And then I can just tweak a couple things there. And then they see how I do my financial inventory and really dig in on the data of the clients. And then so they can pick that up for their next appointment. But then the whole time we're just focusing on one area of the appointment. So we're slowly crafting it. But for anybody that is looking to do this, I would not do it unless the agent has ran appointments before, because if they haven't ran appointments, they're not going to know what to look for. So I think that's crucial. And the other thing is, let's say I bring out a new agent, they have a really low belief in themselves and they go see me just, handle 8 objections in a house, pick up a check for $285 a month. They're like, I could never do that. So I want them to see, appointments on their own before I bring them out.
I love that, man. And then also I saw you travel all over the place too. I saw that you had a group of people in Alaska. You were doing cold plunging, it looked like, in a glacier. Talk to us about travel trips and just, give us a little experience of Alaska and just other travel trips you've done, and maybe why somebody would be a good fit to do a travel trip or not do a travel trip.
Yeah. So, all right. So I've been doing travel. I'll just speak on travel trips in general and then answer the, kind of what we do as a team. But I've been doing travel trips for a while because I'm out here in Denver, Colorado, and we have a ton of agents, and there's a lot of agents and not too many leads out here, to be quite honest. But I didn't want that to be my excuse, right? Because I was like, I'm definitely willing to drive 3 hours. So then I started driving 3 hours to these smaller pockets, smaller areas, having success. And I was like, man, what if I just took a flight to an area with tons and tons of leads? Like, what would that look like? And so I took my first travel trip to Oklahoma, ended up helping 12 families. And I was like, I wonder why I did so good that weekend, because that was my first weekend over helping 10 families. And I think what travel trips allow you to do is when you get no-showed, rescheduled, you cannot go home, right? You're uncomfortable naturally being in a new area. The other thing is you're putting so much financial pressure on you, buying the rental, buying the Airbnb, the food for the trip, that by the time you go out there, you're going to have 250 leads. So you just guarantee your success. So I think that's why travel trips have been good for me. In terms of our group, what I really wanted to do was just begin to create a culture, of just like obviously working really hard and then having fun and experiencing life. So most of our agents are the ages of 18 to 26. So everyone's just kind of like right around my age group. So we decided to do a trip out to Alaska. We went there for a week. We worked for 6 days. And then the last day, we did an ATV tour, hopped in a glacier, and that was phenomenal. But yeah, every single night, what we would do, we'd bring out 2 managers and then like 3 brand new agents that, we see potential in. And then we'll just coach them up every single night on all their appointments, do sales training at night, take them out to dinner, and just really, build the bond, just build the team, and just really lock arms and just get after it and then have fun at the end of the week.
I love that, man. That's powerful. Getting out in person. That's something that I've been talking to a lot of my our top managers about here over the last, couple of months. Is that something that we really do want to do a better job of, is finding ways that we can get together in one location and work, because we've got a couple office pockets here and there.
Right.
We've got agents all over the country, and to get people maybe from different groups that they don't spend time with every day in the same place is powerful, number one. But number two, just from the perspective of a manager, I mean, how much more does a new agent trust you when you get out with them in person versus just a couple conversations on the phone? They don't even know if you really care. But then when you sit down with them in person and you get to know them personally and you spend that individual time with them, it's like the relationship changes. And it's like now, because that relationship, you guys have spent the night in the same house, you stayed up till 2 a.m, talking on the couch about life and dreams. Now, the next time that agent calls, you're much more likely to answer and drop whatever you're doing to make sure that you take care of them. And they can trust that if they call you and when you're in a home and they're in a home, that you'll, in the middle of your in-home, answer the phone for them. There's just trust built up there. So I think it's powerful that you do that, man. That's something I totally admire about you, and I'm sure a lot of people on our team do as well. Last thing on travel trips would be new agent going on their first travel trip, whether that was just taking a flight or it was maybe there's a little pocket that's 2-3 hours away with a lot of leads. How would they best prepare for that? Other than just making sure they have enough leads. Easton talks about his power weekend, all those different things that you do. How do you best prepare a new agent for a travel trip? Do you pre-dial? Do you go to the location and dial there? What is your philosophy behind that?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is your schedule, which I'm just going to go through my schedule. So I only do travel trips on the weekend. I would not suggest doing a travel trip on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because you're just going to sit in front of more families. You're always going to have the husband and wife there on a Saturday. Well, not always, but a higher probability. So I will book my flight between 12 and 4 o'clock on a Thursday, because those are the dead hours, in my opinion, for dialing. Like, you'll definitely be able to book appointments, but from 7:30 till 12, and then anytime after 4 are my favorite times to dial. So I'll book my flight at 12, land in the area by 2 or 4 o'clock, whatever time it is, get to my Airbnb at 5, and then dial all night. So I'll dial all morning, travel midday, all night, and then I'll just run Friday and Saturday. And then I leave Sunday night, because on Sunday, what I do is cleanup, where anybody that no-showed me, rescheduled me, I'll book them on a Sunday, and then I'll door knock all day, just so I have 3 days to hit my 20 to 30 appointments. And then at that point, that's the end of the travel trip. And hopefully there's 10 plus families helped.
That's good, man. That's good. I love that. So I'd love to hear some word tracks that you use. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't get some word tracks. So you want to give us phone word tracks or in-home word tracks? Which one are your favorites?
I like in-home, honestly.
Okay, let's talk in-home then. So knock, knock on the front door, walk us through setting the table up to the financial inventory.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so I keep it simple. The framework here is you're a plumber or like a cable guy. So when a cable guy comes into your house, he's not like, hey, how's, what's going on here? He's not building small talk. He's like, hey, where's the problem? Just lead me right to it and let me begin fixing it. And he's like, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to need you to move this couch so I can plug this in here. And then I'm going to be here for 30 minutes fixing it. And then by the end, it's like, this is how much it costed. You're like, okay, perfect. So that's my framework when I walk into house. So the very first thing that I do, Jamie, is I keep it really, really simple. I just go, Jamie, I'm assuming you're like everybody else that I just sat down with. Your whole goal today is just to make sure you're not leaving a financial burden on your family. Is that right?
That's right, man.
Perfect. And I think if you kind of say it as a statement, but with a question, it just makes it easier. But I always like going, hey, you're not like everybody else. Run with the herd. You don't want to leave a burden on your family. Yes. My second question for you, Jamie, is who is the person that we're going to be protecting today?
My wife, Katie.
Right. Okay. Tell me about her. Does she work?
Well, she's sitting right here next to me, and yeah, she works. She's a teacher.
Okay. Perfect. And then between the both of you, is there a primary breadwinner?
Yeah, she probably brings in about 4,000 a month, and I probably bring in 2,000.
2,000. Okay. And then your bills, I'm assuming you guys probably lean on each other to make sure your bills are all paid, right?
Yeah, totally. I take care of the mortgage. She takes care of pretty much everything else.
Got it. So pretty fair to say, if something were to happen, God forbid, to your wife, one, maybe you could stay in this house, but you'd be up to here with bills and stress, right? And you don't want to be in that type of situation.
I don't know if I could stay in the house.
Okay. So obviously if she passes away, we got to make sure you keep this house, right?
Yeah, that's right. We got kids too. So all under 18.
Perfect. So I'm assuming that's why I'm here today, is to make sure all of that's taken care of and you guys have peace of mind at the end of this.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do for you today, Jamie, it's very simple. I have access to about 20 plus A-rated carriers. I'm going to do all the shopping around. You probably know a few like Mutual of Omaha, John Hancock, Gerber. My job is simple. We're just going to do 3 things. One is to see what you're eligible for and if you are even eligible. The second thing is we're going to custom fit the plan to your needs and your guys' situation. And then the third thing is we're just going to find what fits in your budget, and you guys will actually handcraft the program today. At the end of this, there's no decisions made because I do not know if you will get approved. So we could know by hopefully today or in the next 1 to 7 business days. But we will be submitting an application for coverage to see if you can get approved. Does that all sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good. But I don't want to make any final decisions today, man. We just want to quote.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So fair to say, obviously, like your whole goal is to protect you and your wife, make sure you have the home protected if something were to happen. So if this fits in your budget, it solves all the problems that you guys need. Is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to put in an application for y'all?
No, I guess that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Have you guys ever looked at this beforehand?
Yeah, we saw the that $9.99 commercial. So we're hoping that it's, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I'll pull a program out about that. So that's going to be accidental death coverage, or to increase on you every single year. So obviously you don't want to pay something where next year it's going to be an unexpected bill that you might not be able to handle, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're going to get something that's just locked in, that you guys can afford long term. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just let it rip.
Love it. And when you're doing a telesale, what are your differences? Obviously now you don't have as much. I'm going to take control. I'm going to go to your table. We're going to sit down. I'm going to slide this across the table, husband sitting next to wife. If you're doing that exact same appointment over the phone, are you doing a call to close, or are you setting an appointment?
So in my opinion, I think every single call, if you're doing telesales, should be a call to close, because if you get them on the phone and they're able to do it, then why wouldn't you do it? Obviously, if the isn't there, if they're at work, then set an appointment. But I personally always call to close. The only difference here is I'll go through my normal phone script. I'll just go through it real quick. Take 30 seconds. Ring, ring, Jamie.
Yes, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie, it's Wiley. Right here in Jefferson County. I was calling real quick, boss. I did get the form you submitted for the life insurance quote. Just to verify, I have your date of birth is September 12th, 1967. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Who is this again?
This is Wiley. I'm here in Jefferson County. You just submitted that form online for life insurance. I do your eligibility, so I have access to about 20 different companies. I just need about 5 to 10 minutes of your time to actually do the eligibility and get you that quote. Will you go grab a pen and paper and let me know when you're ready?
Yeah, I don't remember filling this out.
No worries. Let me verify this. So I have you at 123 Success Lane. Date of birth again is 9/12/1967. And then you put here you're looking for about 20,000. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, Jamie, so just let me know when you have that pen and paper. I'm going to go through everything. You're going to get 3 texts from me right now, so you know who you're dealing with on the phone today.
Okay, perfect. But we did actually just get a policy put in place recently. So I do already have some insurance. So I think we're good, man.
Yeah, perfect. That's going to make my job a lot easier. So I actually am the manager for the county. So my job is just to review the policy and make sure you guys are in the best positions. Do you have any idea which company you went with there?
Yeah, we went with XYZ Insurance.
Okay, perfect. And then roughly, since you just got it recently, do you know how much you're paying a month?
$86 a month.
Okay. And then tell me about your health. Like, did you have cancer or anything's going on with your health? Because I'm looking at our rates here and it looks like you should be paying about $20 to $30 less.
I mean, I did have some heart issues a couple of years ago.
Couple of years back. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad I called, because you might be positioned in a plan where you're paying a little too much. And with inflation and everything going on nowadays, I know everyone's trying to watch their numbers. So just give me about 10 minutes to knock this out and see if I can help you save like 20, 30 bucks a month and just get you in a better program. Sound good?
Okay. Got it.
Cool.
Perfect. I love it, man. I think the biggest thing I took away from everything you did, whether it was the in-home or the telesale, is just cool, calm, and collected. You didn't argue with me. You just kind of, you took my objection, you lightly swatted it down, and you kept moving. It wasn't combative. your voice pitch didn't change. You weren't panicking on your back foot in defense mode in any way. You just you agreed with me and you kept moving forward. And the amount of times that you just retook control by just asking a simple question, it forced me, into kind of submission to kind of hear what the next thing you had to say, just by, me having to, answer a question. So that's good. And I think the main thing you guys can take away is just when somebody has an objection, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with objections at all. A lot of the times they're just testing you. They're testing to see if you're going to fold. Sean talks about that all the time. And when you just kind of agree with them, yeah, perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. Calmly overcome the objection and then ask the next question. As soon as they answer that next question, you're back in control and you can keep moving. I said I didn't fill it out, and then he verified some information and asked a question. And I said, okay, well, I guess I did fill it out. Well, we already got taken care of. Perfect. You already got taken care of. That's exactly why I'm calling. I'm the manager, XYZ. Very, very simple. So I think that was great. Kind of as we're wrapping this thing up, man, talk to us about your team. Talk to us about recruiting. You and we had a conversation a couple months back, and you were asking me some questions on recruiting. Now it's like, I want to ask you all the questions on recruiting because you're catching up and you're going to pass us here in a second. But you guys are moving. So Wiley, when I first talked to him, I don't even know where you're at. You might have been in like the 300 to 500 family range. And, now next month you said you could be in the 900 to 1,000 family range, which is really exciting, obviously, for your team. And that's a huge testament to you as a leader, but also them as teammates, working really hard and doing their job. But talk to us about the turning point of your team going from like VP all the way to this big momentum rush that you've had, and kind of where are you guys finding your recruits?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'll say this. I think I'm just insanely blessed to work with just amazing guys. And it's not a testament to me. It's just my starting five. They're just phenomenal individuals. So with that being said, I was looking at our numbers after I had that conversation with you, Jamie, and I was like, okay, we had about 38 agents at that time. And I was like, where did each and every agent get hired from? I went down the list. 36 agents were from warm market and 2 people were from cold market. And I was like, okie dokie, I'm spending about $4,000+ a month in cold market, and I'm spending no money on social media. So I was like, let's just dump all the money back into social media. And right now I still do cold market. I think it's a phenomenal source, but I just saw more value in warm market. So what we began to do is we have pretty much a competition every week with anybody that wants to hire. So if they hire 5+ people a week, then what we'll do is me and my recruiters will actually stack them and give them agents to help them out. So there's an incentive there to get people up and running. And then every single morning, or depending on if we're doing telesales or if we're running in the field, we'll sit on our phones for about an hour and we'll all message people that are in door-to-door sales, pest control, solar, car salesmen. And we have about 5 different templates that we send out to these people. And then we just spend about an hour, coaching each other on how to recruit. And then after that, we'll get a couple bites and we begin to build the conversation and find the weak points in their system. And then we just try to hop on the phone. And what we've been doing is just taking recruiting and acting like it's pretty much in home with leads. Like, okay, how many people did you message today? How many people did you get on the phone? How did those conversations go? And then what I've been doing in my starting 5, like the 5 biggest guys on our group, is we're just coaching our people on how to do that as well. And just to get through the objections with recruiting. So we're only hitting social media. We message a ton to answer your question. We post a ton. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out these other industries to see what we can offer.
That's powerful, man, because you can have a background in insurance and you can, of course, tell everybody from your previous insurance company, hey, come over here. We'll give you 2 times, 3 times as high a comp, and we've got leads and we've got renewals day one. And that's obviously a very, easy conversation to have. For me, I love what you're doing, because those are the kinds of people that I want to hire too, is somebody who's already in sales. But I love it when somebody has that light bulb moment who comes from solar, real estate, or pest control of like, wow, I've been in sales. I've just been in the wrong industry. And like, wow, life insurance really is the best business ever. And they have that light bulb moment. It's one of the coolest things to see. And I was having a conversation with one of our our agents the other day, a guy, Peter Unger, and Peter was saying, you know what, I want to hire more salespeople. And here's why. He goes, I have nothing against hiring someone who has no sales experience, no life insurance experience. I can teach a skill set to anybody, but somebody who's already made a career out of sales, they've already committed that sales is what I want to dedicate my career to. A lot of them have already learned the mindset from years of knocking on doors and years of being told no. And it's like, if I could teach a skill set to anybody, but it takes time to learn a mindset. So somebody comes in with no background in sales, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can get through it, but you get kicked in the stomach a couple of times on the phone. This is when you see the stats of, 80% of people quit in their first 90 days because they just can't hang with commission-based sales. But when you talk about building a sales team, and you talk about recruiting someone who's already in sales, I think that's powerful. I think that's something that everybody can learn from here is find somebody who's already, doing the daily grind of commission-based sales and show them a better way. Show them a way where they can take, you start hitting on the pain points is what you talked about, solar specifically. And you say, hey, love solar, nothing wrong with solar. You should probably keep doing solar. You should probably get your license part-time. I'll teach you about selling solar protection plans to every single person that you sit with, $60,000 CBO. And then they get paid in 2 days and they're going to quit solar and they're going to come over here. Because it took 90 days to get paid on their solar operation. Same thing with real estate, same thing with anything else. So I think it's powerful. You guys are recruiting salespeople, man.
Something to touch on real quick. Like what you were saying, it's easier to take 5. It's like we're looking at a scale 1 through 10 in terms of how good are you at sales, and 10s being like you're the best of the best or very elite. Like an average GDD guy is like a 5 or a 6. It's a lot easier to take a 5 or a 6 to a 9 or a 10 rather than someone that's at 1 and take them to a 10. Like that's a ton of work. And obviously I'm willing to put in the work. But if you can find somebody that already has that background, like you were saying, you only have to move them 4 points up the scale.
That's good, man. That's really good. Well, guys, I want to kind of pause here. And if you guys have any questions for Wiley, go ahead and type those in the chat. We'll just kind of take a second here. I would appreciate it. Anybody on here, questions, anything from in-home, phones, recruiting, culture building, travel trips, anything that he covered that you want a little bit more clarification on, we'll kind of dig into, just as they're starting to type some questions here. What are your goals for the rest of the year, man, going into convention?
My goals are right now. So we got 5 guys that I'm very, very close with. So my goals are all just focused on them. I want 1 dude at $1 million, another guy at 500, and then the last 3 at 250. And then personal goal, I want to help over 500 plus families this year. And then, I want to really build a culture, because how I'm viewing it right now, Jamie, is I'm 22 years old, and obviously there's no rush for me to get an integrity deal. I do have the passion to get there, and I know it'll come, but I want to build it right and properly. And I want to make sure the people that I bring on board that I want to kind of do life with, not just business with. So we're really just fine combing like every single one of our hires, making sure they fit our culture. And then just want to have a good life, a good setup. So
that's powerful, man. I think a lot of us were rushing towards this integrity deal. And, what are we really rushing towards? Most of us at the end of the day, it is something, of course, you want to get to, and it's something you get super excited about, but building it right, having, a team that are family, that trust each other, where everybody's winning. That's something that I definitely, hope for and strive for as well. So I respect that a lot about you, man. And at the end of the day, you can make an incredible living selling life insurance and building an agency without the integrity deal. The integrity deal is just a giant cherry on top that can obviously change a family's life forever. But this is an incredible industry with or without. So quick question from Josh Lockhart. Are you guys running any ads on social media?
Yeah, so we'll just do like story ads. So pretty much it's not really an ad, it's like a boost. So when I posted a reel about Anchorage, like there's just pretty much me and my whole group going out selling, like having a great time. Like we boosted that, and we boosted out to, sales audiences. So all we're doing is boosting posts that we think will get engagement, just so they either, 1, follow our social media accounts within that turns into a drip campaign or to message us directly, but no ads, only boosting reels and just hyping up the pictures and stuff like that.
Are you doing everything through your FFL team account, or are you doing stuff through your personal account as well?
It's mainly through my personal right now, just because I think it's more intimate to connect with me and you can know my story a little bit better. So
totally. And I couldn't agree more. I think at the end of the day, anybody who's building a team account, you're a logo holder or a soon to be logo holder, and you're building an FFL based account and you've got your, 355 followers. Okay, here's the deal, guys. The only people that are currently following those accounts are people who are already in FFL. Yep. Or maybe a couple of prospects that you have in FFL. So you can blast those accounts all day long, but going viral on social media is not the same as it used to be, where you could just randomly go viral. So you're just going to continue to hit that exact same market, but your personal market, obviously you're much more likely to have something that can actually click on a reel or go on the discover page when it's you as a person. At the end of the day, people want to join a captivating personality. Productive people attract productive people. So building from your personal account should be to drive people towards your FFL, team account, so that, now that's where you do recognition. That's where you put out training based content. That's where you do announcements, but everything when it comes to recruiting, captivating an audience, really should be done in your personal brand. So I really like that you're doing that, man. Next question comes from Sam Kelly. Do you guys do a lot of role play early on with new recruits? Also, do you do role play with seasoned people to keep them sharp?
So I wouldn't say necessarily role play. So obviously you probably heard we take them out in the field. And so it's more of hands-on correction, because let's say you're driving a ship, right? And you got to go 500 miles and hit point A, and point A is like right here. In sales, this is how it's going to go. You get one no, your boat goes from this direction to here. Now, if you never adjust, you're going to completely miss your target. Now you get two no's, three no's, you're over here. Like you're way off from hitting the target right here. So I think what's really important is every single time you get a no or get constant objections on the phone is to reach out to somebody that is doing better than you in terms of sales, so they can just course correct you and get you back on track. And then, yes, if we need to have a sit down conversation and go through your end home, then I'll just bring you out in the field. Or if I can't, then we'll sit down and go through it for 10, 15 minutes. But I think mainly just course correcting as we go along is the best way.
Love it. All right, we're going to go lightning round. 3 last questions here. So no more questions in the chat. From Lisa, what's your definition and explanation of resolving every lead?
So mine, when I first, it's different now, but when I first started was I had to get a yes or no from every single lead. So to me, that meant door knocking every single person that never picked up. And I'll share a crazy story. So my biggest sale to date was a gentleman that I had his lead for about 9 months, never picked up the phone. He was way out of my way. Like it's like 2 hours. I don't even know how I got this lead. I was like, oh my gosh, he's in no area where I run. And I remember that me and my girlfriend, we were like on this little road trip, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in this guy's area. And like, he never picks up the phone. I'm like, I'm going to go knock on his door. So I go knock on his door, and long story short, he's a doctor. He has no insurance. He's like 79. And I write him up for like $987 a month. And I was like, man, that's crazy, dude. Like this guy's just in the back of my car in this folder. I don't even know how I got this lead. So yeah, so resolve every single lead. What that looks like to me is get a yes or a no, or yeah, that's pretty much it, especially in the beginning.
It's good. David Cole, what is your favorite response to I need to talk to my adult kids first?
Yeah, so I think always get in front of the objection. So what I like to do during my presentation, if I know it's a single person, I'm like, hey, do you have any children? They always go, yes, or they'll mention their beneficiary, who's their kids. I'm like, okay, do you need them here to help you make a financial decision?
No, not really.
Okay, perfect. And then so when they come back and lean on it, I go like this. Let's say it's $86 a month. And this might come off a little, not, I guess, like abrupt, but this is genuinely what I say. Let's say it's $86 a month and they go, I need to talk to my kids. Betty. I'm like, perfect. Look, I completely understand. I think it's an important thing to talk about with your children. Let me ask you just a random off-ball question. How much did you spend at the grocery store last week?
It's 187.
Okay, because this is going to be half the price and it's 10 times more important. I know you don't want to leave your kid in this situation, so let's do this. Go grab your ID. I'm going to see if you can even get approved by the end of this. I need you to call your son so I can talk him through exactly how this works. And then we can all make a decision together if this makes sense. But you cannot tell me ever in your life that groceries are more important than protecting your kid.
It's good, man. All right, last one from Kasha. Did you know who your starting five were going to be, or have those starting five evolved over time?
Man, I thought I had a starting five so long ago. I really did. I think leadership, you take the bull by the horn naturally, because I wanted to build leaders. And I think you have there's obviously a piece for us to do that. But I think a natural leader is just gonna be like, what do I do? Once they figure that out, they just start moving. And so what I realized was, I'm a big believer in accountability tasks. So if it's a manager and I say, hey, I'm going to give you these 3 people that we just hired this week, let me know at the end of the week, where they're at, and they haven't followed up with anybody, I know that's not going to be someone that I'm consistently going to pour into. But let's say they crush it, they're all writing, then I'm like, okay, the next thing we need to do for your agency is look at staff. And then they set out ads, they start doing things on their own. I'm like, okay, they're hitting each accountability task that I give them. They're continuing to rise. And so once I kind of get to a point where I know someone's just pretty much going to do anything that the FFL blueprint says, I'm like, all right, that's one of my guys. Like, I can lean on him. He can lean on me.
That's really good, man. I really do appreciate it. That's a good word. So guys, we want to thank Wiley for jumping on this call. Thank you for spending your time with us. If you guys think that Wiley brought some value, he's FFL All-Star. Go ahead, follow them on social media. You can follow him, Wiley Hawkins. I'll throw it in the chat here on social media. Just drop an All-Star in the chat if you guys think that Wiley did a great job. Everybody have an amazing night. Wiley, again, thank you so much. Everybody have a great night, and we'll talk to y'all next time.